Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London, and I am a knitting designer. I have my patterns on Ravelry, so I'll link to all of that down below. And yeah, hi. So hello and welcome to new and returning people alike. To new people, I'm just going to say briefly, this is where I sit and talk about my knitting. Maybe once a month, maybe once a week, or somewhere in between that. We're still finding the upload schedule, but to returning viewers, hello. I'm just going to address the elephant in the room because it's just going to be a subject. Yes, I have yeeted the locks, they are gone, the hair is gone. I do this every 4 to 5 years. It's been just over 4 years since the last time I did it. It just grows really fast. It's not really a big loss for me that I cut it off. I cut it off and donated it to the Little Princess Trust, which makes wigs for kids who undergo chemotherapy. I actually haven't posted it yet, so if you want to see how long my hair used to be. Is this weird? This is my hair. It was very long. There, this is the back, this is like each front. I'm not sure how useful this is because this was kind of worn out, but yay! This is how much we got rid of. And the hairdresser was like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I was like, it's fine, it's gonna come back in 4 years. 4 years is nothing. Get off me. In you go, with all the other body parts I collect. It kind of just feels really morbid that I have this now. But yeah. But that's really all I want to say about the hair situation. I'm still kind of figuring it out. Like I tried to kind of like just twist it around while it was drying today, and it sort of seemed to have formed some kind of like waves, which I have notoriously straight hair and I will do anything just to get some movement in here. So I bought salt spray, one of those sea salt sprays and texture sprays, and I'm trying to like see if maybe I'll dry my hair in like either a t-shirt or like a hairnet or something, just to lift it up, because it gets very heavy very quickly, even though I've thinned it out a lot. And I finally don't like have to take myself out to the backyard to brush my hair every once in a while when I wash my hair, and I just need to battle it with 2 hairbrushes, one in each pocket of my overalls, because it's such a fight to get all the tangles out, and there's hair everywhere by the time I'm done. So I have to do it outside. So yeah. That's basically all I have to say about my hair, and I just kind of don't really want my hair to be a subject of conversation on a knitting podcast about knitting, so I'm just gonna move on to the other thing that you may or may not notice, is my voice is a little bit I've had a cold for like 2 weeks now, which is very annoying, and I'm not entirely sure if I brought this upon myself or not. TMI about myself before we get into the knitting. I have chronic tonsillitis, pretty much, not confirmed, but I can see it because they're big and there's like massive holes behind them where you get tonsil stones, and it's gross. And I was just trying to get one out. Well, it wasn't actually one there, I just imagined it. So instead I was like poking on my tonsils until like I was like, I'm gonna get a very sore throat the next day and that's gonna feel like a cold. But what I got instead was like a full-blown cold for 2 weeks, and so I'm not sure if I just happened to have a cold virus at the same time that I was doing this. I don't know. I've never really had this happen before, so this is very strange. So yeah, my voice is recovering, and I thought I might be ready to do a podcast episode today, so you know, that's what's happening there. Before anyone gets too excited about what I'm wearing, it is not a knitted jumper. This is a thrift I got off the ye old Vinted app, which finally people of my size can thrift clothes and actually find sizes, because you can actually organize things. But I'm not sponsored, just a fan. If Vinted want to sponsor me, we will talk. Like that. Yeah, no, just a thrifted, very oversized jumper. Oh, would I knit an oversized jumper this big in just rib? Maybe. I don't know. I'm very glad I didn't have to though, so hey. But yeah, I mean, okay, this is just commercially made, but look at this, like they held like 2 different colored plies together and it's inspired me a little bit. I kind of want to do something like that now, but that's just my wardrobe. This is not really about knitting yet. So I haven't actually prepared show notes today because normally I have my monitor right there and I put all my notes there, but my monitor is currently here on my coffee table because I've been parked in my sofa while feeling sorry for myself for being poorly. So it's still there, it's quite comfortable. So I'm just kind of winging it by putting it all out there on my big old desk that's now unoccupied because it's all over there. I love living in a tiny space. More on that at the end of the episode, if I remember, without my show notes. So what have I been working on? What have I been doing? Well, you may remember the crochet basket. This is the 4th basket I've been making out of leftovers. So this is a really, really brilliant way of using up, if you have like piles and piles and piles of leftover yarns that are like too much to just throw away but too little to actually make anything of. I'm sure we all do. I certainly did. I got this inspiration from Tash, who have been organising these knitting meetups in Brighton and the south coast of England in general, and she had brought one of these baskets that she had made with her, made out of like beautiful strands of hand-dyed yarn all held together. It was just this wonderful looking basket, and I was like, that is brilliant, I could use up so much of my yarn of that. So I made 2 baskets out of hand-dyed sparkly colourful yarn held together, and I've made one out of non-superwash, which I use for my laundry, and now I'm making another one in non-superwash that I have just finished. And I think this is my best one yet, because it's very sturdy, it holds up on its own, it doesn't need to be filled with stuff to stand upright. Brilliant. But I don't know if you guys remember me slagging off my crochet skills last episode, because I am not very experienced with crochet compared to knitting, which I could do blindfolded, so I have a very varying tension that just seems to get tighter and tighter and tighter the more I crochet. And you know what? Pictures speak louder than words. This is the situation. I'm not sure if it's coming across as well here as in real life, but this is okay. This is like the opening. This is the underside. They're supposed to have the same circumference. They do not have the same circumference. It's like it's just gone in right here, just somewhere here, just decided, whoop, same stitch count. Just, I think also my strand, so the strand is composed of just a bunch of strands held together, right? And they will vary depending on whether, when I run out of one strand, if I join in with a thicker one or a thinner one. And I've sort of tried to balance that out as best as I could, but maybe I didn't do that so well as I thought, because I think it ended up being considerably thinner at this point. And I kept tightening because that's what I do apparently. And yeah, but that's actually given it amazing stability, because if it had been as wide at the top as the bottom, I think that would have made it kind of do this a little bit more, whereas this is actually holding up really, really well. I did say I was going to give this to a friend of mine, and I think I will if she wants it, but I'm not going to be mad if she declines, because I am quite pleased with this. So I need to weave in the 2 ends. It's only 2 ends, it's not great. There are some like loose ends in the middle from the magic knots that I've done when I've joined the yarns, but they can just be snipped off. Do not worry about it, especially with this non-superwash stuff. But yeah, I think this is actually evidence that I think I did change the thickness, because here in the middle we have the original, right? You can see, are we getting a sense of how thick that is? Whereas here we have what I was left with, and I do think that's a lot thinner. So that's probably the explanation there, but I also do think I did tense up a little bit once I was past this kind of turn. But yeah, crochet basket, it is complete. I did not run out of leftovers, though kind of, but I managed to be savvy about what I had and did not have to sacrifice my Navia Duo balls of yarn just yet. So for now, this is kind of how I've been storing it, just like this. This is like a one of those wicker baskets that I have, just to save space really. So I put a lot of yarn that I guess I'm still making decisions about here. I think these 2 gonna go into my other crochet project, and these are some I got in the mail, but which we'll talk about in a bit. So that was my crochet basket. I will link to some of this down below, maybe, if I can remember. If I don't, it's in my Ravelry projects from previous baskets. Yeah. So my other crochet project, which I haven't put anywhere yet because I'm not really following a pattern. I just found a tutorial on Hooked by Robin's YouTube channel and I'm just going with it. So I was showing you guys about, I think this is what I'd done last time with my ever shrinking circle to square squares. I think maybe I had done this amount as well. So this is sort of what I had-ish last time. And this is sort of what I have produced from my sickbed. It's not really that much, it's a lot of yellow. Now it's a lot of browns and oranges. I'm just like about halfway through the orange skein. I'd already done some earlier when I was testing out my squares, so it's gonna be a lot of orange and and the yellow. So it's going to be kind of like an autumnal colored blanket with some more sort of saturated pops of blue and green and stuff like that every now and then, but most of the time it's going to be quite warm colors. And I think I have landed on doing a grey border, question mark, like mid grey, not dark grey, not light grey, just like right in the middle. I think I like that idea, but I'm not sure how I feel, because I always think black borders on crochet blankets are just the best, but I do have a lot of grey and black and white, so I could really decide. I don't think white's for me. I don't know. I think I would have liked white if I just kept them as circles. So the way that these look, all right, they start off as circles, and then the last round turns them into squares with some treble crochet around here. I think that's the American terminology. I'm gonna need someone to make like a blog post. If nobody does it, I'll do it. A blog post where they show all the common crochet stitches with both Norwegian, American and English terminology, so that I can have it all in one place, because I get confused. So that's currently where that blanket is at. I'm not really pushing forward with that blanket or anything. It's just kind of nice to use up scraps as I have them, and I don't know when I'm going to join them together into one blanket. I don't even know how big that blanket's going to be based on the number of squares I've done right now. This is completely non-planned. I'm just kind of doing it as I do it, and then we'll see, I guess. So that was my crochet, and I have been knitting as well. Now I know we hate this phrase, but I cannot show it to you yet because it is going to be in a publication. If I showed it to you, they would drop me, so that would be bad for everyone. Same thing goes with something I made earlier this year as well, so rest assured it's coming. But yeah, it's been a lot of knitting with Ask, and I'm going to talk more about that in a bit. But until then, I want to talk about this other yarn that I'm finally trying out, which is sort of like the Swedish equivalent, which was called IIII Stycke, which I'm probably not pronouncing right because I'm not Swedish. But I've had this yarn in my stash for eons, and now they no longer make this yarn. And I am making a little knit which requires more of this yarn than I currently have. And like I said, they don't make it. They do make IIII 2-ply yarn, which is supposed to be, you know, a perfect substitute for this. But I don't know how similar they are in case I run out of yarn, which I might do, because I only have one more 100-gram skein of this left. This is all the red I have left. And this is how far I've come on the Festive Yoke for kids. So this pattern came out like, I don't know, a year and a half ago or something. I already have the Festive Yoke for adults, as you guys probably already know. I have a cardigan and a pullover for adults, and I have a pullover for kids that I did knit in the yoke only colorwork version for my nephew when he was like 2. And naturally, now that he's 3, I am making a size 8-year-old. Let me explain how this came to be. My dear nephew is a bit big for his age, and I had my sister measure him according to the schematic of this pattern, and every number I got is very clear that he's more of a size 4 years old. Cool, fine. Why am I not knitting 4 years old? Well, it's March. It is not Christmas. There are still a couple of months to go for that. So I figured I'd like for this to fit him for Christmas. So why am I not doing one size up, which is 6 years old? Well, I would also like for him to be able to wear this the following year and maybe the year after that. So I went up another size to 8 years old. Yeah, that's why Ellie's knitting an 8-year-old size for a 3-year-old. That's why. This pattern also has like a lot of ease, so my nephew's just big for his age. No surprise there, going by his parents when they were kids, so it is what it is. But yeah, this is made in Hillesvåg Ask. I'm finally using this lovely yarn that I bought with no plans. I just got, what, 2 grey skeins, 1 white and 1 red. I still don't know what to do with the white one, but at least I'm using up this now. And I might run out of yarn, but I also think I could probably shorten the length of this. I made it quite a generous length in the pattern because, I don't know, there's like a lot of different lengths you could have for kids. They come in different lengths, but also they prefer different lengths of jumpers, and they're gonna grow in them. So those are all considerations. I kind of leaned a little bit on the longer sides, though it's still shorter than a lot of other sweaters for kids out there in those sizes. So I can hold back there, and that might work out. It, you know, doesn't really need to go any longer than top of his trousers, really. So I might get on the sleeves next and see how much I have left, because I don't want to compromise on the sleeves. that would be silly. And yeah, we'll just see where that takes us. I even held back on like 1 centimeter from the neck circumference, from the sort of the length of the rib for the neckline. Doesn't really show, and I'm kind of like looking at it, I was like, maybe I should have just kept it to 2 centimeters for all the sizes. Food for thought. But yeah, I am very much sticking to the chart as prescribed. So again, in case you don't know, this pattern has 20 different charts that you can mix and match in addition to these like rows of kind of flowers that come in between. So in addition to those flowers, there are 20 charts. I have made one sequence in the pattern that basically, yeah, runs from this to this, and then there's a row of deer heads, and then the chart is complete. But you can replace a lot of these. So well, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 of these 20 charts are already in the default sequence, but you can just change it out and put something else like a snowman or a Christmas parcel and a Christmas tree ornament. I've even made 2 sizes with those, I think. That's kind of how far I got with that before I had to get on this submission knit. So this one's a little bit on the back burner right now, but it is resting on my armrest on the sofa, because every now and then I can get some cheeky rounds in, you know, you never know. But yeah, I think I'm ready to get on the sleeve so that I know that I'm not going to run out of yarn before they're done. And it's going to fit him at some age. It's not a disaster. I think I have enough yarn, and hopefully I can use these yarn estimates to give an estimate for the all over color work as well in the pattern, because currently it's just a yoke only version, but you may want to do all over color work. Yeah, so that's what I've been knitting on. Basically, yeah, a lot of crochet and knitting on my own pattern, my own designs through and through. That's not true. I've been working more on the Azor pullover. Hang on. All right then. All right. This is where we're at. I knew I should have made show notes. Azor by Orlane Sucche. This is how far I've got so far. It's very similar to last time, but I have 2 sleeves. 2 sleeves are done. They're done, they're done. They're equally long even. I didn't check, but they better be. So yeah, this is made in Pickles Pure Wool, my favorite Pickles yarn, and I am now back to knitting on the body again. So I think I maybe got an inch or 2 done here. I did bring this with me when I was out and about the other day. What was I doing? I don't know. I do things. But yeah, so it's kind of just stocking it until I get tired of it, or I feel like I'm happy with the length, and then I'm going to put in some ribbon and then it's done. So yeah, it's just one of those nice kind of stockinette things that I can reach for when the brain is just not braining for anything else, which has been the case lately given, I don't know if you can hear, it's a very loud bird outside. But yeah, with the cold and everything, my brain was just not really obeying me, so that's been a really lovely project to have. Also by the armrest of the sofa. So don't really have much to report on that since last time. I think I have raved enough about the pattern. I'm really enjoying it. It is going to be so beautiful and so my style that, you know, it just keeps me going. And that about wraps up all the knitting that I can in fact show you. This is my Sarbu coat on the chair behind me, in case you were wondering. It's a pattern of mine that I published a year ago. It's a bit of a reminder of just how long it's been since I published something, so I gotta work on that. But the anxieties are still kind of ongoing, let's say. So since I can't talk about the actual knit I'm doing at the very moment, I will talk about the yarn that I'm using, because I will take any and all opportunity to talk about one of my favorite yarns ever, Hillesvåg Ask. As you already saw, there was some of that in the basket, and I got some of these just casually displayed on my desk because I'm about to wind these up, because I've knitted up 2 of these already. That's how quickly I'm getting through this, because I'm just loving this yarn. This is just, I'm always super happy when I knit with this yarn. I'm never like not happy with the results that I get when I use this for like color work pullovers. This is my go-to. Like, I have nothing bad to say about this. I'm using the IIII yarn, but I know that it's just slightly more uneven and gappy and whatever than what I get with this. I can't put my finger on it. I'm not slagging off Gastic Yahoo, but that's not coming across. I just, every time I use this yarn, it's like coming home, you know? I don't know what it is. So this is quite similar to Finull, for those of you who may be more familiar with that. I flip-flop between Finull and Ask when it comes to what's my favorite. I don't really know One day I pick Fionnuala, the next day I pick Ask, and I don't really have an explanation for why. Fionnuala is a little bit finer, a little bit, like when I look at a strand of Fionnuala, it's a little bit lighter. You can sort of see through the plies a little bit more. There's more air in there, whereas these plies are a lot more solid. They have, what is it? I think they're about like 157 meters per 50 gram ball, whereas with Fionnuala they're 175 meters. So it is a little bit of a lighter yarn as well. This is more of a true sport. Fionnuala is more of a sport leaning on fingering weight, if that tells you anything. Both are made of the Norwegian white sheep, whereas Fionnuala is a higher percentage of lamb's wool. This is just kind of straight up Norwegian sheep. I think they don't say anything about lamb's wool in here, though it does feel almost as soft, I would say, and I've not had any complaints about softness when knitting with this. It just feels so lovely. Especially the white, it's just, I don't know. I'm trying not to hug this yarn because I do have makeup on my face and that wouldn't be so good. But I really love that Ask has different shades of white. So they have a bleached white, an unbleached white, just like Fionnuala and most other yarns like this. But they also have a half bleached white. So they're really just kind of covering all bases. But yeah, this is the unbleached white, so it's quite yellow in tone, which I just love. I just love. I will never use just the bleached white. So I just kind of wanted to rave a little bit about my recent stash acquisition, because I don't know, I have some thoughts about stashes. I don't really know if I have any fully formed thoughts, if I ever will, to be honest. A recent sort of podcast discovery of mine called Breathing Yarn, which I can highly recommend. She recently put up a video where she's talking about the ethics of yarn, sustainability, stuff like that, and also kind of touches upon thoughts around having a stash, right? You know, the minimalist view that you just buy the yarn for the projects that you're going to need it for, versus the collector view that we have a stash that we've sort of curated, and you know, just sort of gives them both a valid voice, and you know, the pros and cons of each. And I just thought that was a really nice video. I really like Breathing Yarns videos. It's been, I famously live under a podcast rock. I don't know what's happening in knitting these days, but I've really come to appreciate her channel. It's really inspired me to make more thoughtful content, because I find her content very thoughtful, and yeah, I'm just kind of trying to hold myself back from not like completely just, you know, ripping off every great idea she's having, because it's just really nice. So shout out to Breathing Yarn, who now has got me reading about Norwegian yarn and the ethics of Norwegian yarn, which may or may not become an episode, I don't know, because yeah, I have a lot of knitting books. I don't know if you can tell, there's quite a few up on my shelf. They're all knitting pretty much, except like these. And these are not, but like most of everything else. And I picked these out on off my shelf. These are all about just Norwegian wool. They're not knitting books or anything. Well, this one kind of is. And I'm just like flicking through them all, and like I have so many ideas and so many things like I am interested in. And I think what's fascinating as well, and this sort of ties in with me raving about the Norwegian white sheep yarn that I just love, is that these are actually not the original Norwegian sheep. Like, this is a fairly recent crossbreed sheep introduced to Norway in the early 1900s. If you go any further than that, you're going to find these sheep that have grey coats, they are smaller, they have shorter tails, and they are like, look a bit more feral. I don't know what best to call them. They just look less domesticated. They are a little bit hardier, at least that's what they're said to be. And there's like a lot of discourse around these sheep breeds and like which ones that should be subsidized, because pretty much all sheep herding in Norway is subsidized. And you know, there's a lot of politics in there, and there's a lot of history, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's so interesting. I dabble in this stuff, and I've dabbled again, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, let me know if you guys want more content of that kind, that is a little bit more planned and scripted, but a bit more, I don't know, educational, if you will. But yeah, I definitely think a lot about this when it comes to stash, just to kind of return to my original subject. Is you will probably have noticed that I buy a lot less yarn for my stash than I did in the early days. In the early days I had very little yarn. I had just come from many years of very low income, and just had to mostly prioritize money for food and rent, and that was it. But then I started doing work for university as well as selling my knitting patterns eventually, and I just had a bit more disposable income to get yarn from both yarn festivals that I attended, but also when I went home, and I could go home more often because I had money for that as well. Just like a little bit more than I normally had, but it was just enough to like, oh, now that I'm here, let me get the yarn I can't always get. And I just had this like kind of scarcity mentality that I was worried that this would be the only time I'm going to get my mitts on this yarn. I better get it now because I don't know when I will next have the opportunity. And I kept doing that over and over again until, you know, I'd come back to the same place and the same yarn is there, and I'm like, well, I still haven't used the yarn I bought last time. And I come back again and I still hadn't used the yarn I got last time. And this will be the case for all the yarn shows I went to, you know, the mill. It's so many times that I was like, okay, I don't think I need this scarcity mentality anymore, because I keep adding to the stash with no plans of what to do with it. And I know now that I can access this yarn if I need to, either through, yes, travels, but also through all the contacts that I have made globally that I just didn't have before. So I've dialed back on that scarcity mindset, this now or never, must get this yarn now, who knows when the next opportunity will be there. But not just that, it's also been that I know what I like. I don't need to try the whole spectrum of yarn, because I actually tend to just go back to what I know. Everything else ends up sitting there marinating and waiting for me to use it, but I always come back to this. And so I still do stash a lot of this, that I do, but everything else that I don't have an immediate plan for, that I don't know if it's a sort of yarn that I use very often, I buy considerably less of and less frequently of. And I don't really have or think that anyone should have like a moral judgment on that. I don't think neither the minimalist or the curator are wrong for their positions. I have been both. I think I'm still more leaning towards the curator, but I think I also agree a bit more with the minimalist, because when it comes to picking yarn, usually we should pick it based on knowing what we're gonna make. So we should have the pattern first. We don't do that. I don't do that, but like, should is a strong word, but you know what I mean. That makes more sense, but it's not what we do. And you just have to laugh. It's not that serious at the end of the day, but that's sort of been my changing thoughts around yarn. I don't feel necessarily that it is like overconsumption that I got so much yarn, because it will be used up either by me or by someone. It's just that I may have bought more than I will ever need my entire life, and so I have been finding new homes for a lot of what I have, and I'm pretty much half the size of the stash that it was at the biggest, and feel very good about that, because it's going to all the crafters' homes and they got it cheaper, and so it's sort of all going around. So yeah, my thoughts have shifted. I don't think my opinions have shifted, it's just my personal approach is just a little bit different, because I think I just landed on a knitting preference that was maybe going back to square one a little bit. I went around, I sampled, I tried many things, and then I just went back to like, you know what, I think I like the stuff I started with. So that's kind of what happened there. And I think also there was a part of me when I started out and my podcast kind of got sort of viral in knitting terms, not in a global sense, my goodness, no. And felt like if I really liked some yarn that I saw in a show, I really should buy it to talk about it on here. And I felt a sort of sense of guilt if I didn't. Confession time. So if I was like sitting here and complaining about, you know, oh, there's not enough rustic yarn on these yarn shows, I wish more hand dyers would dye on these kinds of yarns and these kinds of colors, and then when I found someone that did, of course I was gonna buy it and support it and talk about it, but then I was like, well, now I have a lot of yarn, so oops. So I think I'm slightly over that as well. I feel less compelled, I guess. And those are my thoughts on the stash and the yarn and everything, and I want to get back to my books now. But just to wrap up this episode, I thought I would give you another story about life in my new accommodation. It seems to be a bit of a theme now. I think it's kind of fun to talk about. My bathtub is still in a bit of a state, but I managed to get back to British Gas and get them to fix it, because we cannot have it this way. I Had a fuse go the other day. That was a lot of money that I just had to get for an emergency electrician in a weekend, because otherwise the fridge was gonna go warm and everything in the freezer that I just bought for it. I swear, home ownership already is it's just a money suck, which I mean I was warned about. But I don't miss having a landlord. I don't. This is still better, but RIP my money. But another funny story that happened. This is funny. This is going to sound a little bit scary, but hold on. It's not as bad as it's going to sound in the beginning. I just, you know, for dramatics. I was home, not home alone, I might add, but someone was buzzing on the buzzer for the apartment building that I live in. And I answered only to find that I couldn't get through because this person had already buzzed someone else. And then I was like checking outside and I could hear someone going buzz, 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 buzz in every apartment. And I'm like, what is happening? So I stepped up on the front there where I can like basically see who's buzzing. And there's this guy who was really mad at one of my neighbors. I can't figure out who. And this guy doesn't remember which of the apartments he's been to early in the day. Now, I was at the back wrestling my hair when it was long and I was like brushing through it with my 2 hairbrushes. Like, and I heard someone who sounded very much like him from the top floor apartment. The one who recently got CCTV installed. And now he's back and he's mad at my neighbor because my neighbor had made this guy do a job that would make him £50. For some reason he's supposed to bring those £50 back to my neighbor, and then my neighbor will give his tools back that he currently has locked in his car. This man on the buzzer needs his tools for his livelihood. So he's really mad he's not getting his tools back because he didn't get the money for the job that he did. Weird. So he's mad and he says to me, darling, don't be here when I come back because I'm gonna bring a can of gasoline and light this place up because I'm angry. And I'm like, sir, please don't. I've just moved here. I don't know this neighbor. I mean, I have met him, but he didn't know that. So I am not to blame here. Please don't torch all my belongings. I've just moved here. And he's like, I don't care. I'm angry. It's like man-child. I'm like, sir, there's a 2-year-old living in this building, right next to mine. You sure this is good? He's like, I don't care anymore. I don't care, darling. Hey, you can call the police. I don't care. And I was like, I'm not gonna call the police. I didn't say calm down. You don't never say calm down. They never calm down. Just like, I hear you. I get that this is frustrating. I don't know what I can do for you. And I just kept trying to talk this dude down. Because I'm like, I'm not taking him seriously. Like, I'm just not. But you don't want to take the chance. You know? But then suddenly someone from the building over the road calls him over from like the first floor. That's second floor for everyone outside the UK. Who are shouting at him. He goes over there and they're like kind of laughing at him, making fun of him, and he's shouting back at them. There's clearly some discourse. And I thought, oh, thank goodness he's out of my hands. He's gone to the other building. He's going to torch that one. Great, cool, we're done. I'm going to go to a birthday party. I don't want to deal with this. And then he comes back and he specifically buzzes my number now. And I'm not going to go out there, but he sees me because the lights are on in here. It's getting dark out there. He can see me standing here. So I have to walk outside and talk to him through the fence. He's not figured out that he can just get through the fence, but whatever. We're not telling him that. And he's just very upset. He's just very upset. He's just very mad and disappointed in my neighbor. And he just wants his feelings heard. And I'm like, okay, I get that. If I see my neighbor, I will talk to him and let him know that I don't appreciate, you know, him bringing all this trouble over here. And I don't think this guy picked up that by trouble I did mean him. But he was just like, thank you, I appreciate that. And I was like, yeah, I didn't really appreciate when you said you were gonna like burn down my house though. And he's like, I'm sorry, love, I'm sorry. I was just so mad, but you know, I've decided that God's gonna take care of him. Yeah? I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm glad. I think that's a better approach actually, yeah. God. So he walks off. And you'd think that was the end of it. But no, like 1 or 2 nights later, we're just going out to the shops just to pick up something. We come back and it's starting to rain, so we like really want to get back inside. But as we're approaching the door, don't you think he's standing there like on the side, like ready to pounce if my neighbor walks out? Now I can see that my neighbour's not in, the lights are off. This guy doesn't remember which flat it was even. So he's just standing there like, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to go in the building that way. And because of my lock safety, I can't lock myself in from the outside. I need that front door. I need that. And so we're just standing here like, what do we do? And eventually just decide to just walk past him, just get in and just don't let him get in through behind us. And he didn't even try. I think he knew that he had made us a little bit uncomfortable. It's like, you know, and just walked away so that we could enter the building. And then I heard someone upstairs in the stairwell, and I thought maybe that's my neighbour, because I have a word. I need a word with him. It was not him. It was my other neighbours, the guy whose gas I'm paying for. He's a doctor, who was really, really lovely. And I told her what was going on, and we had a laugh about it. And yeah, she just reassured me that there isn't really any trouble here. We never had any trouble in this building. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And I feel a lot more reassured when she said that than when one of my other guy neighbours said that. I was like, okay, cool. It's fine. And it's been fine. It's just, there are some characters in London and I have to laugh about it. Like, this guy isn't, you know, he's just being dramatic, but you just don't want to take that chance. So, and then I got a cold, so I've just been here since guarding my flat, and there's been no arsonist attempt, so it's all good. But yeah, that's all I pretty much had to talk about today. The hair, the yarn, the crochet, the knitting, the arsonist, the everything. So I hope you guys are all doing well. I'm gonna get back to my knitting and yarn books now, and hopefully I will see you guys soon. Bye bye.